Okay, today we're talking about HEMA sparring swords. These are the Krieger Armory Club Series. This is their longsword, their training longsword, and also their training arming sword. Let's go through some details of these and see what Krieger Armory has to offer. Cool, so first and foremost, these feel like real swords in hand. So they're not clunky at all. They don't feel whippy. These actually feel like a real longsword and a real arming sword. So some things to talk about here are the materials and manufacturing are sourced and made in America. The guard plates are 1075 high carbon steel, the same as the blade. They've been quenched and tempered, carry over from their main line that they're known for, which is also present in the Club series. Langets on longsword act somewhat as increased distal taper, even though it's not measured in the specs. It adds needed rigidity in the base of the longsword and also provides a nice shelf for thumb gripping. Arming sword doesn't really need it since it's shorter and starts off inherently stiffer. Stiffer, but still has a good amount of flex, as we'll go through in a little bit. So piggybacking off of that, this innovative approach to sword design and manufacturing has an aim for durability and robust construction. And that's proven with the entire hilt assembly being hammered together using steel pins, which you're going to see on the guard here in the up-close looks. This unique method of manufacturing paired alongside the appropriately tapered, double-tempered 1075 steel blade creates an effective training sword for new and veteran HEMA practitioners alike. The Club series is a ready-to-go steel HEMA trainer that'll get you training safely and quickly. The classically tapered blade along its width provides a very similar feel to a traditionally crafted sword, but with an added element, namely that the sword is designed to reinforce good habits and make it feel obvious when the blade is not properly aligned. Okay, let's talk about the guard and the grip. The guard is a 1075 tempered steel, just like the sword is. The grip is carefully shaped to provide clear indexing, and it's comfortably waisted and tapered. The natural cord wrap is soaked with 2 coats of epoxy resin hardener that creates a noticeable grippy texture and aids in longevity of the wrap. This is a great transition from a synthetic trainer to a steel competition sword. Synthetics are good, but they can often not be balanced because they're synthetic. It's hard to make them feel like actual real swords. So you end up feeling like, well, this doesn't really feel the same as a live longsword or a live arming sword. So this is a great transition between that because they both feel like real swords, which seems kind of obvious, but if you have tested out or you're practicing HEMA right now and you have any experience with synthetics, you're going to know like there's a big difference between a real longsword, a real arming sword, and a synthetic one. So this one actually feels like that. In conjunction with that, this is also intended to make a sword that naturally reinforces good sword fighting mechanics. The apparent width and visual profile of the blade routinely encourages you to index your edge towards your opponent during cutting action. Essentially, it's going to make you fence better because these are actually balanced like real swords, not as something separate from that. The blade geometry can provide you some advantages and binds, however, the flats have quite a bit of flex and thrust safety intentionally built in. So you can see the flex on these, totally a safe amount of flex. Here's me showing you with my hand and then pressing this into a tree. Obviously you wouldn't press this into a tree, but I don't have another person with a jacket on at this time to demo that with. The flared blunted tip, it's safe for controlled partner sparring and drilling. It can be capped if needed, and the blades are obviously double tempered to reduce brittleness. So you can get that cap on there, add that rubber cap to increase that. Obviously don't go full speed, full power, just like you would never do with any other training sword, whether it's synthetic or whatever. You don't want to go full speed, full power because we are dealing with weaponry and we need to train smart. Holding this with just a bare hand, it's still grippy enough to where it doesn't feel like it's going to fly out of your hand. So I will definitely give them that. I like the shape of the handle as well, especially on the arming sword. And because this is going to be a HEMA sword where you're going to 99% probability you're going to have protective gloves on, that is only going to aid in that, whether it's suede or it's leather. That epoxy resin is going to only aid your grip when you are fencing. Big thanks to Krieger Armory for sending these out to us, the Club series exclusively at Kult of Athena. Guys, these are a no-brainer. If you have a HEMA club or you're someone who's an individual that's getting into sword fencing, whether that be into longsword fencing or into single-handed sword fencing, we'll call that for the lack of a better term, because there's so many different types of single-handed swords. These are a no-brainer. From the quality to the fit and feel of them, they feel like a real longsword and they feel like a real arming sword. You're going to want to pick a couple of these up for your club or one for yourself. Click the link in the description below this video to pick one of these up today, or a couple. I'm your host, Tom, for Kult of Athena's YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok and on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next review.